Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, where we are coming to you live from our studio in New Jersey in the United States. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is the Books, Blogs, and Poetry Show. Joining us is the star of our show, DIANN FLOYD BOEHM, and we have a very special guest joining us from Canada. She'll let us know where. Her name is Katherine Lawrence. Let's bring out DIANN first and find out what she's been up to. DIANN, how are you?
I am great. So happy to see you. We've gotten or received plenty of rain here in Texas, so I'm happy as a lark.
Well, I'm happy that you're happy for the rain. I'm happy that we made our 2-day drive with a flat tire
I know.
safely. If so, just to be in one place and in one piece. So it's all good.
Yes.
So for people who haven't joined us before, this is our second episode of this particular show. You're also the host of other shows that we have here as well. Would you like to tell us about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Well, the Corner Bookstore complements this particular show, so that's exciting, where we concentrate on authors from all various genres, as well as publishers and anyone actually in the book industry. So that's a very exciting show, and we have authors from around the world, which is so exciting for me to, and you as well, of course, to meet people from around the world and what makes them tick and inspires them, which we'll get to hear about today with our special author. And then we have the UK news and culture, which is so exciting because it's a wonderful way for us Americans to learn really what's going on in the UK, not just with the royals, but within their politics, understanding Scotland and what's happening there, and other parts of the UK like Northern Ireland and Wales. So that's really a fun show. And our other co-hosts that are from the UK just really enlighten us to understand how things work over there. So that's exciting because they are our cousins after all. And anyway, so that's where I am today.
Thanks so much for sharing that, DIANN. Really appreciate it. DIANN is a big part of our platform here. She's done a number of things behind the scenes, especially introduced many people from around the world in her global travels. So thank you so much. DIANN, I'm really excited. We have another wonderful person who was referred to us by Mickey Mickelson. Let's give him a little round of applause. Thank you,
Yay,
Mickey. He also is very good to us and sends us wonderful people, and we really do appreciate it. So Katherine Lawrence is joining us today from Canada, and she is the author of 5 poetry collections, including a middle grade novel in verse. Let's welcome her to the show. Hello.
Good morning. Well, good morning from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. People have trouble pronouncing Saskatchewan, so that's your first lesson for the morning. And this province is part of the Canadian Prairies, and it's right above North Dakota.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you. I love to learn about new places. So
Sure.
It's a pleasure to have you here today. And we are thrilled because, as I mentioned, this is our second episode. And so you're going to be talking to us about poetry, which I absolutely love. I'd love for you to share a little bit about your experience. How can poetry be really cathartic and therapeutic in terms of getting your feelings out in this way, which is different than just writing in general?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Thank you. It's an especially apt question because this morning we're talking about this middle grade novel in verse titled Stay. And it is a collection of poems. Every poem speaks, if you will, to the next poem. So with respect to how not just a child or a teenager can get their emotions out on the page, but anyone, poetry really seems to address the heart. I believe it's because we are just, writing exclusively in, metaphor and images. It's we're tapping a source of language that is almost predates language, so it's really rooted in the body and in feelings. And the main feeling, if you will, that I am addressing in Stay is the confusion and the sadness that attends the child who is going through the breakdown of her family. So that's what Stay is about. It's not entirely sad. It has a hopeful ending, but that's what this book is about.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Diane?
I was just thinking, that's so wonderful that you concentrated on that particular area because I grew up where I thought I had the perfect Leave It to Beaver home. And though my parents didn't break up till I was like 19, it still affects you deeply, especially when you thought you had the perfection of Donna Reed, Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, all rolled into one. So I'm excited to hear more about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dan. I'd love to hear about your experiences if you feel like sharing them later on.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
What I'm, my parents divorced when I was 14, and that divorce has continued to affect every part of my life. And Stay is my fifth book, and all of my books deal with the breakdown of family in some way or another. Personally, it is my great surprise and delight in life that I am not someone who is divorced. I always thought that among all my friends, I would be the person who would be divorced because I always felt like I didn't know how to maintain a happy marriage and a happy family. I didn't have that model. I knew how to get out of a lousy marriage. I didn't know how to stay with one. But tomorrow I'm going to celebrate 39 years of wedded bliss.
Congratulations!
Yeah, I know.
That is a
wonderful
major accomplishment.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. We've raised two terrific young women. So it's amazing to me. So Stay came out around the same time as Black Umbrella, which is a poetic memoir, also dealing with, as I say, with family breakdown. And in writing Black Umbrella, what I learned was that I did and I do carry the pain of coming from a family that just did not stay intact. At the same time, I have my family to thank for teaching me how to hang in, and that there's no such thing as a Donna Reed family. Father doesn't always know best. The worst thing in the world is to leave a woman at home alone in the suburbs with a couple of kids. It's just a prescription for insanity. So I thank my mother for all her courage for leaving a situation that didn't work for her. It was hard on us, but she ended up she was a fantastic model. I carried huge anger about her decision for a long time. I can still tap into that anger on a bad day. But and she made a lot of really inept decisions. But she did not have a model. She didn't know how to do it either. So, I've ended up forgiving my mother forgiving my father because of their innocence, and they tried to do the best that they could. We all just try to do the best we can, and that's what Millie's trying to do and stay. She's 11 years old. She thinks that her family's a Donna Reed family, although Millie's never seen that wouldn't even know who Donna Reed is. But she's a happy kid. The saddest thing in Millie's life is that she's a twin, and her twin brother died at birth. So her deceased twin, his name is William. He's called Billy in the story, and I brought him into the story because Billy is the person, the soulmate, that Millie goes to in her mind to confess, to talk, to try to sort out her questions. So Billy is an active character, if you will, in this story. I know it sounds ghoulish, but she could have had a diary. She could have had a best friend. She has both of those, but she gets on her bike and she goes down to the cemetery and she hangs around and she talks to Billy. So as a writer, was it just another a handy device for me to get her private thoughts out. Diane, would you like me just to read a little bit of Stay to get things rolling?
It's fine with me, Dr. Jacqueline. Doesn't that sound great?
Yes, I was just going to suggest that, please.
Okay, so Millie is suspicious that things are up in her house, and no one's telling her the truth, which is a common mistake that adults continue to do when things are going sideways with the family. So this piece is called Punctuation. I've got the longest ponytail in class, a blonde question mark curling my spine. If my hair could ask, would Mum brush and comb the answer, sweep my suspicions into an updo, or braid and tie another lie? So I wanted to bring her questions into play right off the bat, and also get at the point that the adults in Millie's life are lying to her because they don't know what to say. And the mother is involved with someone else, and Millie finds out by reading the text on Mom's cell phone. So I can just read another one here. So she begins to understand that what's happening, and this is called Secret Agent. I polish a dark keyhole in the mist of my bedroom window, spy Dad outside Sorry, I'm going to start that again. I polish a dark keyhole in the mist of my bedroom window, spy Dad outside beside the car, trunk lid open, streetlight directing suitcases, blankets, books, the old vacuum cleaner, pots and pans, desk chair, watch him climb behind the wheel, pull away from the curb, drive so slow I could jog behind him, ask where he's going, but he turns at the corner, leaves a gray trail of smoke that lingers in the night air, fades away.
Wow, that was powerful.
Both of them. How clever on the first one, the way you did the braiding and worked it in with the thoughts and feelings, that was just like a gift from heaven that inspired you. That's amazing. And then the keyhole, goodness gracious, that's so true.
Thank you. I can see this show's going to be really good for my ego, isn't it?
Just telling the truth.
Katherine, I have a question for you. So this is a global show, and I don't want to assume that everyone knows what poetry is. Can you describe what is poetry to you, just to take it back a step for people who are thinking, I don't understand. I heard about it, but I don't know what it is.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I believe that people all over the world recognize and know poetry. Poetry is the earliest form of written language. It was, Homer's Odyssey was a novel in verse, was poetry. Old stories, told in highly imagistic language. It was poetry to the ears. So poetry is the written form of a precise moment, of a moment in time that builds on the next moment and the next moment after that. It pays attention to imagery and metaphor and sound. Sound is very, very important to poetry. Poetry is what you find when you go to the store to buy a card for Mother's Day. Poetry is what you find when your heart is breaking and because someone has just died, and you go and you reach for that lyrics in the song. It's poetry. Or back to that sympathy card. It's poetry. Or a line returns from a verse recited to you in school. It's poetry. Poetry is what we hear when we walk the streets and we're in the woods. Poetry surrounds us.
That was so beautiful, Catherine. And I have to say that I did not know poetry was all those things. So thank you for answering that question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's much larger than what I thought it was.
Absolutely.
You needed to be my English teacher.
I would love to have been your English teacher.
Most English teachers stay as far away from poetry as possible. At least the ones that I had, they're like, okay, we're going to spend 2 weeks on it, and then we'll get back to regular stuff. Well,
Yeah,
that doesn't set the stage very well for you to like it, does it?
Yeah, back in the day, but poetry is becoming more and more relevant again. Like look what kids are doing with rap. And spoken word. It's just taken off. I mean, go to see Hamilton, a musical. That's poetry tap dancing across the stage.
That's so true. Beautifully stated.
That is true. I have a question for you, which is, I've never written anything in poetry. I've written children's books. I've written nonfiction. I've written dissertation. How difficult would you say it is to write poetry when you look at, how challenging it is to write things? To me, it seems like poetry would be at the top or somewhere near the top.
It's a question I get a lot, and I just think it has to do with what speaks to the writer. So poetry has just always come to me. I don't mean it falls out of the tree. I mean, I'm a poet, and I think, I hear sounds, I hear words, and a poem occurs to me. The challenge is giving myself permission to sit down and spend the amount of time required to write a piece like punctuation. It takes a long time. Right now, I'm trying to turn to long prose fiction, and that is a tremendous challenge. So I could, put the question back to you: how do you write long prose fiction? So it's how you're wired as a writer, and what your intention is. I think.
That makes sense. I feel that you are a very creative soul. That's what comes to me from what you've read to us so far and what you're sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to read some more? I'd love to hear it.
Sure. This piece from Stay is called Divorce. And I will say, I mean, your questions are so are good questions. You're really speaking like writers, because you are writers. So I will say that titles are extremely important with poetry. A title for me, when I'm writing, if I don't have the right title, it means that the poem isn't yet finished. It hasn't landed. So a title is an essential part of a poem, and this is called Divorce. Mum flips Sunday waffles on a school morning, tries to buttermilk Tara and me about new arrangements. We'll live with Dad every second weekend at his apartment. Tara stabs a strawberry with her fork. I drag my bacon through a puddle of maple syrup, chew and swallow. And I'll just move over to New math. New math. 4 chairs at the kitchen table minus 1 dad equals an empty place I can't subtract from the meals we ate together. Dad's clown around jokes, holding a banana to his ear like a telephone, his direct line to those monkeys in Ottawa, or serving our Friday night specialty, chicken a la daddy, deep fried and golden, Mum's pink apron tied around his middle, white chef's hat from the dollar store perched on his head. Tara, Mom, and me pretending we're part of a TV cooking show called One Dish Dad, his studio audience laughing for real. It's my job to set the table every night for dinner, but I hate the new math in our house. 3 plates, 3 glasses, 3 forks, 3 spoons, knife, knife, knife.
Wow. I have like tears in my eyes. I was really moved on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Now
I got chills.
Thank you so much. That's a poem that I always read when I'm addressing a classroom, because the teachers always want me to talk about metaphor without using the word metaphor, and to talk about imagery. I can use that image. But so I'm always saying to the kids, don't worry about like coming in with a big idea or a big emotion. Just go for the specific details. And so this is a poem that really helps them to understand how something as common as a plate, a fork, a knife, carries so much of the weight, and the images do all the heavy lifting. A knife repeated 3 times says volumes. And I know you both, get it. And the kids understand that as well. Oh, they say, yeah, because they understand what a knife does and what a knife means. They get it, that's a symbol. And then we can talk about how repetition is a kind of music. Not only does it make the point, but it carries and it resonates. So thank you for your feedback. I love that poem as well.
It reached home for me, that's for sure. So,
it's interesting because my parents were married 50 some years. My dad passed away, so I didn't have a divorce, but I got divorced. I think maybe I don't have any kids, but for some reason I was really moved by that.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you once were a kid, and you're a feeling person. We get it, right?
yeah,
And that's
right.
what's so wonderful, as the 3 of us know about literature, that literature really helps us to become compassionate and empathetic people, puts us in the shoes of somebody else. We know a little bit after reading Stay what it feels like to go through a divorce. And that's the kind of feedback that I get from kids as well. One day I had a really interesting comment from a little girl who said that reading Stay helped her to understand what her best friend was going through. Her best friend's parents were breaking up, but her friend didn't really have the language, and there was something up. And after reading Stay, she began to understand why her friend was sad and withdrawn, and she didn't get it. So I thought that was wonderful.
That is really, really great. So the book acts as a tool as well to help others understand.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Ahead.
Yes, Katherine. So I would love to hear for you to share with people, how do you feel when you're reading your work aloud and you get messages like DIANN I just shared, like students share, children share? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel like all the time I spend alone in my office is worthwhile. And it makes me feel like this is why I'm here. I may never become a household word name. There's only one Margaret Atwood from Canada in the world. I'm not motivated by becoming a a big name. I'm motivated by reaching one reader at a time. I would be lying to you if I didn't say that that one of the reasons I write is to get my work into the, before an audience. A writer, any artist has got to have an audience. So I'm grateful for my readers, and their feedback is just very, very encouraging. Like this conversation we're having. It's encouraging to read and to be understood.
Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for transparency. It feels amazing when we have found our passion and people are receptive and appreciative of our work, as I know Diane and I are both of yours, and for you being here today. You are also the author of Black Umbrella.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And how would you describe the difference between the two works that you have there today?
Well, Black Umbrella, this is the book here. So Black Umbrella, I wrote as a poetic memoir. It was a book that I was unable to write until both my parents had died. I'll read Love and War, and then you'll understand what that statement means. So this is about the wedding that I had 39 years ago tomorrow. Love and War. We opt for a civil ceremony on neutral soil, the prairie, my home away, a giddy wild spring wind, 2 gold rings. My mother books Air Canada, arrives from the east wearing her best behavior. My father and his wife plead busy lives, excuses, excuses. He's unwilling to declare peace on a morning in May, meet my Western in-laws, shake hands with my new husband, join our small party for lunch in a private room at an airport hotel, break bread with his ex. So in that piece, I still carry the deep regret that my parents were still not talking to each other at the time that I got married. So I did not have like the wedding of a little girl's dreams. I had a realistic wedding that I realized later suited my reality. It was a very small wedding. My in-laws, my husband's aunt, a couple of friends. We're a grand total of 9 people, and I wore a beige summer wool suit, skirt and a jacket, no veil, no fancy hat. And then we flew off to the mountains for a weekend of skiing. I'll read this to you. The Heart Wants. I am 19 when I meet him, 29 when I finally agree he's right. What kind of a man waits a decade for a woman? I don't know. Wait, that's a lie. The better question is this. What took me so long? I was more rabbit than girl in those days. Small game sensing danger, twitches its ears, sniffs the air, bolts. My knack for survival born of a mother who assumed I'd fall for the same trap. She warned me, packed me off with a flashlight, a kiss, and direction. Earn your own gold, she told me. I traveled both poles, trekked alone to better, harder jobs, while he wrote letters and phoned me long distance, a friend who dialed into the heart of the matter. What was the matter? Not a thing. I needed time to fall in love with my body, my voice, my brave, sure-footed animal self.
Wow. Wow.
We can all relate to that, right?
Absolutely.
We can. Yeah. And I'll just read the first piece in this collection. So this is thinking back to when I was like Millie and suspicious that there was something up in my house. So this is called Hooked. I knew every charm on her bracelet, The silver sound that chimed as she moved from room to room knew what my father didn't know, knew the link between the tiny telephone dangling from her wrist and the one fixed to the kitchen wall. It rang once every night after dinner, a code she translated by touch, her fingers deciphering the trinket soldered between a jewel-eyed kitten and the teardrop birthstone. I pestered her like a child, begged, tell me, tell me, tell me, I can keep a secret. And I did, or even better. I forgot until years later. I lifted the lid of a velvet-lined box, uncovered that bracelet, a piece little sister didn't fancy, and neither did I. What are daughters to do with a mother's tangle of necklaces, earrings, brooches? We sorted, donated, kept an occasional piece to wear on occasion, fasten a silver chain to the underside of a veined wrist, and listen to her charms, the way I pretended a stranger dialed the same wrong number night after night.
Wow.
That's going to make me cry.
I know. Rip that phone out of the wall. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, the good old wall phone. Yeah.
Yeah, remember that?
You know, like I just reach into my own life. So, you know, Millie who finds out about her mother from reading texts on a cell phone. I clue into what my mother's up to by, you know, overhearing the way her voice would change when the phone would ring on when times when my dad wasn't home. Other nights when he was home, it would just ring once, and then this mysterious charm arrived on the bracelet. So, you know, I was emptying my vault of secrets, which is why I could never have written this while my parents were alive. I wrestled with that issue for a long time. Finally decided those stories were mine, and I came to the work with my own truth and great love for them both.
What kind of closure, if any, does it bring to put your experience and your feelings on paper for other people to read and get to know you a little better?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question. I was surprised. I really was surprised at the fact that I still needed closure after all these years. But closure, in fact, is what the gift of these books has brought to me. Especially, you know, when I'll go out and I'll do a reading at a festival or something, and there'll be people, usually women, who want to come and just talk to me about their experiences, either as a child of divorce, an adult child of divorce, or they've been through divorce as well. They just want to talk. We just want to share our experiences. You know, I remember once a grandmother talking to me in tears because she was so concerned about her 3 grandchildren. You know, that family was breaking up, and did I have any advice, is what she wanted. So just be there. Just be there for them. And keep reading. Just read to them. I said, just keep reading. I don't have any voice.
What? You don't have a magic wand? What is
No,
wrong with you?
Exactly. Yeah.
No,
But
that was,
you know, if you got a problem, I'm sure there's a book out there.
yeah, no, that's great advice. Be there. But I'm with you, Dr. JACALYN. I think, you know, writing these things does help bring a healing process. And Katherine, I can relate too. My mom has some things, and I still have not. She's passed, and it's been 2 years, and there is this envelope this thick, and I am very suspicious of what it has to say in there. And I still haven't brought myself to read it because she wrote my full name on. This is for Patricia DIANN. I'm like, oh my God.
And you haven't opened it yet?
No, I've opened one thing, but I haven't opened that because I know it's gonna bring out this massive thing.
Right.
But I'm getting close, so I can so relate to everything that you're saying, and the healing process.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's a book coming for adults.
That's just what I was thinking. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
We do have a show called Your Story, Your Grief, Your Journey. It sounds like these would be great topics for that show as well.
Well, let me read this poem called Keeping Mum. So in here, my mother has passed. I return to pack your closet, a private room once kingdom to a child, walls lined with treasure, hexagon hat boxes, shoe boxes, pastel dresses, silk robes, and beaded gowns, hems caressing the top of my head as I crawl deep while you count 8, 9, 10. Did you know where I hid? It was a game that won you silence, a second cup, a few more pages. Ready or not, I'm here to collect a lifetime of sweaters hanging slump-shouldered, double-knit pantsuits, dry-cleaned and plastic-veiled, cotton dresses embroidered in des colores, bright as your wish for one more Mexican winter. Come find me, bent below a naked yellow light, my arm stemmed through the fallen sleeve of your navy blue housecoat, my feet crushing the backs of your best black shoes.
Diane, you're on mute.
Sorry, I said another one. You truly have the gift. And what a blessing you are to so many people. I'm so glad you're writing.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. But don't you just love writing though? Like, don't you just love what images do?
Absolutely.
And
Sure.
so yeah, I mean, I'm so like I'd love to hear about your own writing processes, but for me, when I can get to my office and just relax and just follow what's happening on the page, I'm always a student, always in beginner mind. How do you feel about writing, about the process you go through?
Dr. Jacqueline?
Diane, I'll go with you because you're a full-time author and I'm a part-time one. So,
For me, it's always so different. So when I get this thought or idea for a children's story, it just, goes over and over in my brain. And then I'll wake up in the middle of the night or I'll be in the garden and then the whole story comes to me. And then I go into this room that I'm in right now. And this is my magical room where everything happens. And then I start writing the story. And then I write the whole story. And then I go back and I, like a piece of clay, mold it and so forth.
Right.
Now, for my young adult historical fiction, that's totally different because I already knew the complete theme that I wanted and where I wanted to go with it. And then that was so much time into studying the history of that particular time period. So totally different. But boy, the process, the fun of it all is it's quite exciting. Like sometimes I think, how did I write all those words today?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So, you get into that zone and you were meant to write that day. But I think what you do is a true gift. Not everybody can write poetry and build the imagery that you're building with your words. And I loved what you said at the very beginning of explaining poetry about the sounds and the imagery. You just said it so beautifully.
Yeah, I'm always, well, I have friends who are novelists and some of them will read their work out loud to themselves to try to really improve the sound and the cadence of the lines, which I find very interesting.
It's fun to have friends like that.
Yeah,
for your soundboard, isn't it?
Yeah.
and I have to say with the,
they'll read their own. I'm telling you, they'll read their own work, like as novelists.
Oh, okay.
Trying to infuse their own work with sound and rhyme. Anyway,
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, Jeff.
Absolutely. I was just going to say that as I'm writing these children's books, I have an illustrator who's actually pulling the whole thing together, but you are illustrating it with your words and without having pictures. So that's really quite impressive.
It's a good way to put it.
2 people to do what I'm doing. It takes you 1. So
takes a long time. It takes a long time.
Katherine and Diane, we are actually at the end of our time today. So by so fast. I can't believe it. We have another show
did.
right after this. But Katherine, we welcome you back on this or any of our other shows. I'm going to spotlight you again. How can people contact you, and who would you like to contact you?
Anyone's welcome to contact me. My email address is up on the screen, and my website is katherinelawrence.net. So please, I'd love to hear from you.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you here today. It's lovely meeting you. Thank
I
you.
love the questions. So generous.
Thank you. Diane, how can people reach you, and who would you like to contact you?
So you can reach me at my website, DIANNFLOYDBOEHM, DIANNFLOYDBOEHM.com. And all my social media is right there. So if you're an Instagram person or Facebook or LinkedIn, you just click there. And so it's a one-stop shop. Before Katherine goes, I would also like to find out how people can order her books.
You can contact me directly, or you can contact my publisher for Stay. That's through a Shadow Paw Press, or with Black Umbrella. My publisher is Turnstone Press.
Great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Our next show is coming up. It's Talking Heads with our expert presenter, the Harley Street stress expert, joining us from London, Catherine Heward. We'll be right back. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.